Shields up, Armbreakers. Rurikhan here coming at you with another video, and today we're going to be talking about Outriders. Now, earlier today, Square Enix held a presentation where they showed us our first snippets of gameplay for this game, as well as some of the RPG elements that we can expect, a little bit of the story, basically a presentation very similar to something that Nintendo usually does in their Nintendo Directs, specifically about the game Outriders. And if you guys have been watching my videos, you know that Outriders is one of those titles that I've been kind of looking out for because I'm interested in checking it out. So I live streamed the whole thing over on Twitch, and you guys can catch my early reactions there if you are curious. But basically I figured that I would do a video summarizing my early thoughts about this particular title. For those of you that are not aware, Outriders is a third-person co-op looter-shooter type game which supports co-op up to 3 players. You're going to be playing a character with special powers, and you're going to be mowing down enemies in an alien planet. It's a pretty generic setup. As a matter of fact, when it comes to generic, that is going to be a word that a lot of people are going to use to describe this particular game, unfortunately, because that presentation really, in my opinion, kind of failed to distinguish the game from a lot of the games that are already in the market. And that was a bit of a disservice to that developer. Like, there might be something extremely special about this game, but they definitely did not show it in their early presentation, at least in my opinion. Now, I'm not saying that is a bad thing, but I do have quite a lot to talk about in regards to this topic. So let's get this started. In terms of story, it's a fairly simple setup. The Earth is dying, humanity makes one last push out into space, and they end up in another planet. Now, in this planet, there is a MacGuffin, which is called the Anomaly, and the Anomaly essentially mutates people and creatures. So it ends up mutating, I think, the people that come on the spaceship into that planet. But the player characters, the Outriders, they appear to be in like cryostasis or something, and they stay in that cryostasis for about 30 years. And eventually the anomaly also affects you, but because you were inside the cryostasis pod, you are affected differently from everybody else, and you basically get superpowers, whereas a lot of the other people were mutated into these evil dudes, kind of, and then there's also the other people that just kind of like survived in that environment, and they were not affected by the anomaly. But basically you get the idea. You get this almost post-apocalyptic sci-fi scenario where your character has superpowers, and then there's going to be other people that will want to kill you. And there's also a signal, which appears to be like a very important thing. There's this signal pointing, which we assume is to the center of the anomaly, and there you'll supposedly be able to find your answers. That's kind of like your story setup, that's kind of like your incentive to move on, and apparently the closer you get to the signal, the more powerful you'll get because you'll level up and get more experience, so on and so forth. I mean, I think you guys get the idea, right? Now, one of the things that I was kind of taken aback while I was watching the video is that I thought that their presentation overall was not particularly good. The gameplay itself did not look very polished at all, which was kind of weird because after that particular presentation, there were a lot of gameplay videos that went live. So I checked out Eric's video because I knew that he had been invited to check out the game and stuff. And you know, Eric's also covers Monster Hunter, so there's a lot of overlap in our content. So I figured I would check out what he thought of it. And interestingly enough, if you want to watch gameplay footage, I'd advise you to actually go check out Eric's video, because I'm going to be using the official footage that they released naturally, but in Eric's video, like, the footage looks a lot cleaner, it looks a lot smoother than the official presentation, which I thought was weird. Like, if you go to their official YouTube channel, like, you'll notice that it feels like their gameplay footage is skipping frames. It feels like the animations are not that polished because it's really framey. Like, it's weird. And then if you go watch Eric's video, it looks a million times better. So I'm not sure what happened in that presentation, but it was really weird. As a matter of fact, I even felt that overall, the game just wasn't at a stage that it was ready to be presented to the public properly. Like, there's a lot of placeholder stuff in the UI, and that's like something that I would have expected, but ultimately I felt that the lack of polish in the animations is really going to hurt this game in the long run, because nowadays the initial impressions that people get on video games are extremely important, particularly after other titles ended up being very disappointing and also promising these grand adventures and stuff for players. And after that initial showing, they just end up showcasing not that great, and players just end up forgetting about the titles in the long run. And I felt that this might end up being one of these cases. And again, I hope that I am wrong. I really do, because I would like to see this game succeed, because I just like these kinds of games personally. That's a personal thing. I know that not everybody's into them, not everybody's into looter shooters, but I kind of am, so you know. So in terms of my main complaint, it's definitely the animations. Like, you guys know that I'm big into animations, and I felt like they lacked impact. The abilities of your characters felt like they lacked just like oomph, you know, like when you have that Devastator character, he comes down, you like put something down in the earth, and it seems like he's shaking the earth and stuff. It just didn't feel like that was translated visually onto your screen. And interestingly enough, this is something that Eric's also mentioned in his video. He felt like the animations lacked impact. It didn't convey a sense of impact. And I noticed it in the presentation, and it was then reinforced by Eric's. So, you know, that's just something that looked like it did. Shooting also looked extremely generic. However, it is important to mention that it seems like your abilities are going to be on pretty short cooldowns, so you will be able to use them often, which is cool in my opinion. There are other games where I've seen that being done before, where, you know, in Destiny, for instance, I feel like your abilities are on much longer cooldowns, so you end up relying on your guns a lot more often. At least you did back when I played Destiny 2, which arguably was a long time ago. But in this game, it seems like they're going to be on shorter cooldowns, so you'll be able to spam your abilities more often, which is pretty cool. Then they showcased a little bit of the talent tree, and that was another disappointing aspect to me, because if you pay attention to the skills that they show, like if you actually pause their video, you'll notice that a lot of the smaller nodes in the skill tree were essentially like passive bonuses. So like, hey, here's 10% more health, here's 15% more resistance, and then here's 10% more health again. And I was just like, come on, man. Like, I want something that actually changes your abilities. And there are a couple of nodes that do that, but not as many as I would like. Most of the skill tree appears to be more around passive bonuses than necessarily active stuff for your skills and stuff, which, you know, that was another aspect that I was like, oh, come on, man, you know. But anyway, one of the aspects that I did like, and this is a very minor thing, I guess, but each player is going to get a truck. Now, you don't necessarily get to drive these trucks. They kind of function as a home base. So it's like whenever you go to a specific area in the map, your truck kind of goes with you, right? And I like the fact that you're going to be able to customize those trucks. Now, it seems like most of the customizations are going to be cosmetic. They did say that one of the things that really appealed to me is that when you are playing with friends, because again, this is a co-op looter shooter, you'll be able to play with up to 3 friends. You know, all 3 of you are going to have your trucks, and you're going to roam around the world as a convoy, and it would kind of work kind of like an old school wagon circle. I don't know if some of you guys will even get that reference. I know that I'm showing my age with that one. But I just thought that was cool, even if it's more like a visual thing, like whenever you deploy onto a map, you get to see the convoys going around, like a loading screen type of thing, but, you know, with the customization of each player. But I almost wish that they would take this a little bit further. Like, each of these trucks is going to have, like, your vendors and stuff. So I'm assuming it's just going to be, like, common vendors for everyone. But I was thinking would be cool, like, if you would actually have a skill tree for your truck. And like, for instance, I could specialize my truck to have the best weapon upgrades, for instance, like ranged weapon upgrades. And then one of my friends could specialize to having like the melee truck. And that would, you know, that would be an incentive for you to play with other people. Like, you know, some people would specialize in different things. And then the NPCs on their trucks would, you know, they would reflect those decisions that you would make. And then it would be cool whenever you form up a convoy, like you have all these other NPCs available to you that can upgrade your gear and augment your skills in different ways. But this is all just stuff that I would like to see happen. But none of this is naturally confirmed, and most likely it's not going to work like that. But that would be something that I think could differentiate the game a little bit, and it would be really cool. Now, another aspect to it that they didn't mention in their presentation, at least if they did mention, I didn't notice it, and I would feel like this is something that you definitely would want to mention it. But Eric's asked this in an interview or something, and they told him, but this game is not going to be a live service game, so it's not going to be like an MMO-like game. It is going to be a finite game. So something much more in the scope of like, for instance, Remnant from Ashes, which was the first thing that I thought of when I started seeing footage of the game, actual gameplay footage. I was like, wow, this looks a lot like Remnant. Now, I don't know how many of you guys played Remnant. This is a game that I really, really enjoyed. It was a lot of fun. It's also a third-person looter shooter with co-op. I don't remember how many players it supports. I think it was also 3 players, but I'm not 100% sure. But you guys can check out the footage in that game. I'm sure there's like videos that I did on that particular title if you're curious. So yeah, it's much more of a game that you can play with your friends optionally, as opposed to, you know, having to connect to servers and stuff. I don't think this is going to be an always online game if this is the route that they're taking. You can also play the game completely solo if you want to, which is, again, is another big bonus in my, I mean, I say a big bonus, it's nice, right? It's nice to not have a game that's like, oh no, this requires online, it requires you to do this, it requires you to do that, and, you know, eventually when they shut down the servers, you'll never be able to play the game again, right? There's too many of those games out nowadays, and it's nice to see a game that doesn't do that, even if a lot of the other aspects of the game felt generic and stuff like that. Now, Eric's also mentioned that there's not going to be microtransactions or loot boxes, which again is something I feel like they should have said in their presentation. Like, I really don't know who was behind organizing that presentation, because it just felt extremely lackluster and at the same time didn't have a lot of the information that I would consider to be important. But anyway, basically I came away from this whole thing thinking that this was going to be more of a budget title because of the animation quality and the poor performance that we saw during the presentation. I was like, well, I mean, if they're going to do this more as a budget title, like a AA type of situation, you know, this could actually be a cool little game for you to play around for a bit. They said that supposedly the story is going to last for around 40 hours. I think they're probably stretching it there, in my opinion, but again, I don't know, because I just don't know that much about the game at this point. But then I went and I looked, because they opened up pre-orders after their presentation, right? And it's actually full priced as a AAA title, which, I mean, if you're gonna go for a full price AAA, I mean, in my country, it was going for 70 euros. So actually 69 euros, 69.99, which is, you know, full AAA pricing. And I feel like you should have had a much more polished presentation to justify that asking price. And again, I don't want to be too negative on it, because nowadays it seems like every game that we're getting is a live service of some kind, right? So I would like this game to change and to polish up and to be something that everyone could be excited about playing. But as it stands right now, I just personally, I don't see it. Like, again, I hope I'm wrong. I hope it changes. I hope things improve. But judging by their presentation, I was very much taken aback, and I was like, whoa, like, I did not expect this. I expect this to be at a much better state if you're going to be holding a presentation. But, you know, it is what it is. You guys let me know what you think about it in the comment section down below. Thank you all very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you did not enjoy the video, hit the dislike button. Feedback is always appreciated. If you usually enjoy my content, subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, the usual stuff. I'll see you all in the next one. Stay strong, and may your shields never break.